the first video with my new camera. My memory card is outdated and I missed a message about the lower frame rate. Sorry about the laggy footage. This pattern was sent to me by Cindy. She also makes knitting videos, so don't forget to check out her channel and leave her a comment. The instructions she sent will be also available in the description. First, make sure the racking handle is in its highest position. Now raise 66 needles on the front bed of the machine, 33 to the left and 33 to the right side of the center. Place the edge springs on the last working needles. Now raise the opposite needles on the back bed and place the edge springs on the last working ones. On both beds, arrange the needles in 1-to-1 division, then move the edge springs on the last working ones. Set both locks to N and the stitch size to 2. Insert the orange strippers and take the main yarn. I'm using 2 strands of acrylic yarn. Knit 1 row. Set both locks to CX and increase the stitch size to 3. Now knit 2 rows. Set both locks to N and increase the stitch size to 3.5. Knit 1 row to finish the cast on. Knit 30 rows without changing the settings to make the rip. On the front lock, increase the stitch size to 5, then set the back lock to GX. Remove the orange strippers and insert the black ones. Move the edge springs and transfer all stitches to the front bed. Put all needles on the back bed out of working position. Now knit 5 rows. Lower the front bed and attach weights to the knitting. Take the 2 end stitches and move them 1 needle out. Now put a purl bump on the hook of the empty needle. Repeat the same steps to make the increases on the other side of the knitting. Now knit 3 rows. Make the next increases. You can pull the needle down to take the purl bump easier. I learned this tip by watching Cindy's video. She has videos for knitting the exact same gloves on her channel. Now knit 4 rows. Make the increases the same way. The instructions are pretty simple. You have to make increases on the row counts shown in the video. Now all the increases are made. I have a total of 86 needles on the front bed. Now lower the front bed and rehang the weights higher on the knitting. Raise 10 needles on the left side all the way, then bring them down to the place when the latches are just starting to close. Use a strand of contrasting color yarn and manually knit off those stitches. If you have dagger combs, you can take the stitches on the comb and drop it between the beds of the machine. Now raise the needles all the way again and manually knit 1 more row using the same contrasting color yarn. Sorry for the autofocus on the camera, I forgot to set it the right way. Now raise the needle slightly, you just need to loosen the yarn. Use the yellow tool and cast off these stitches. You will need to rehang these stitches on the machine, so if you make the cast off loose, it will be easier to see the stitches later. And just to remind you one more time, if you have decker combs, just take the stitches without making cast off or knitting contrasting color yarn. Now lower the front bed and drop off those 10 stitches. Put the empty needles out of working position and knit one row. Now repeat the same steps on the right side. First raise 10 needles and manually knit 2 rows using a contrasting color yarn, or take them on a decker comb and drop it between the beds of the machine. While I'm making the cast off, you can support me by liking the video, or you may check out Cindy's channel. After you make the cast off, drop these stitches between the beds. Rehang the weight and raise the front bed. Now knit 19 or 29 rows. The row counter should be at 60 or 70 rows. Lower the front bed and take off the weights. Now you have to place markers on the following stitches. Put 2 markers on the center stitches, then on the 8th, 17th and 26th stitch at each side. Put the knitted piece back between the beds. Move the lock to the color changer, take the waste yarn and knit 20 rows. Now take an empty eyelet and slide the lock to drop the piece. It should look like this. You have to find the first stitch and rehang it on the machine. Put the racking handle in its highest position and lower the front bed. First we will knit the pinkie, so we have to rehang 7 stitches on each bed. The racking handle is in its highest position and the stitches must be opposite to each other. Now you can see up close. Don't forget to leave me a comment while I'm rehanging the stitches. After you rehang the stitches, put the edge springs on the last working needles. Now you can see how I'm rehanging the stitches on the back bed. To be honest, I found it easier to rehang the stitches on the back bed first than the ones on the front bed. But this may be different for each one of us. The most important thing is to rehang the right number of stitches. You can check that by watching the markers that you attach to the yarn. Now place the edge springs on the last working needles. Raise the front bed, set both locks to CX and the stitch size to 5. Make sure the black strippers are inserted. Take the main yarn and knit 50 rows. Remove the edge springs. At each end on each bed take the last 2 stitches and move them 1 needle in. Don't forget to put all empty needles out of working position. Now knit 2 rows. Make the decreases the same way. You must have 3 or 4 stitches on each bed before you can sew them off. Now knit 2 rows. Take the yarn from the lock and cut it. Thread it in the double-eye bodkin tool and sew off the stitches in a circular manner. Move the lock to the right and retread the machine. Lower the front bed and attach the stitches for the next finger. You need to put 9 stitches on each bed to make the ring finger. I hope you have seen the process already, so I will skip the hanging part. Place the edge springs on the last working needles and raise the front bed. Now knit 60 rows without changing the settings on the locks. Move the edge springs and start making the decreases for the ring finger. After transferring the stitches, put the empty needles out of working position and knit 2 rows. Now repeat the same process. Knit 2 rows and make the last decrease. Now knit the last 2 rows, then cut the yarn and sew off the stitches. I won't show you how to knit the other fingers, but you can see how many stitches you need to rehang to make the other ones. The total of stitches is given in the instructions, so you have to put half of them on the front bed and the other half on the back bed of the machine. This is how the glove looks like with the fingers knitted. Now we have to knit the thumb. You have to rehang the stitches with 2 cone waste yarn, put 10 stitches on the back bed and the other 10 on the front bed. You can attach them to the needles using the waste yarn, or you can put the stitches on decker combs and use them to attach the stitches easily. I'm using the Decker combs because the camera is in front of my face and it is very hard to see the needles through the viewfinder. After you rehang the stitches, put the edge springs on the last working needles. You must have 10 stitches on the front and 10 stitches on the back bed of the machine. The racking handle is in its highest position, so the stitches will be opposite to each other. Place the edge springs on the last working needles, raise the front bed and knit 40 rows without changing the settings on the locks. Now remove the edge springs and use the double decker tool to make the decreases. At each end on each bed, take the last 2 stitches and move them 1 needle in. The procedure is exactly the same as when knitting the other fingers. After transferring the stitches, put the empty needles out of working position and knit 2 rows. Now make the decreases the same way. Knit the last 2 rows. Take the yarn from the lock, cut it and sew off the stitches in a circular manner. I wasn't using weights when knitting the fingers, but if you have a weight attached, you have to remove it before sewing off all stitches. Now the glove should look like this. First you have to remove the waste yarn. It's looking much better now. Now remove the waste yarn from the thumb. I will cut it off using the nippers. And now you are almost ready. You have to sew the side using the mattress stitch and high toe yarn tails. And that is the final result. Hope you have liked my collaboration with Cindy. That's all for today. Have a nice day and see you in my next video.